Hi, this is Mrs. Rodriguez, your pre-algebra teacher. This video is a review for the Chapter 8 test. Chapter 8 test that's coming up. These problems are from a practice quiz a practice test that can be found in your textbook. So let's go ahead and get started. And what I recommend that you do is that you take out some paper and something to write with, and then that way when a problem comes up on the board, you can just try to solve it yourself. And then if you get it correct, great, move on to the next one. If not, try to figure out your mistake. If not, please see me in my office hours or call or email me, and I'd be happy to go over that problem with you. Okay, so again, this is a Chapter 8 test review for pre-algebra, and this is on page 471 of your textbook. And the first problem asks about functions, okay? So is this relation a function? Okay, so remember functions, you have the domain and the range. The domain are your x values, so here it would be 7, 9, 11, and 13. And then your range would be your y values. So we've got 0, 3, 1, and 0. And this 7 pairs up with 0, 9 pairs up with 3, 11 pairs up with 1, 13 pairs up with 0. So each domain value has exactly, or each domain element has exactly one, it pairs up with one range element. So this would be a function. Okay, yes, and you could say each domain element, because it says to explain, pairs with exactly one range element. Okay, all right, so let's look at the next problem. Number 2 says to write an equation that describes the sequence and then find the 10th term. Okay, so if we're looking at this sequence, what I like to do is make a table of values. So the first term, or we can even label it term, and then the number. So the first term is 7, excuse me, the first term doesn't work. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, so the first term should be 2. The second term is 7. The third term is 12, and then the fourth term is 17. Okay, so I can see that going from the first term to the second term, it's an increase of 5. From 7 to 12, it's also an increase of 5, and from 12 to 17, it's also an increase of 5. Okay, so I know I'm going to be multiplying 5 times something, right? 5 times the term number, right? So if I multiply 5 times the term number, well, in the first case, that's 5, okay? 5 times 1 is 5. But I need to get 2, not to 5. So to go from 5 to 2, I need to subtract 3, okay? So I'm going to test a couple of these out. So if I put in 1 for t, that would be 5 minus 3, which is 2. So that works. You should always test out more than one of these because it might work for the first term, but it may not work for the second, okay? So 10 minus 7, that would be, 10 minus 3 would be 7, okay? Now I'll just check one more. 5 times 3 is 15 minus 3, which is 12, okay? So these check out as well. So my equation becomes 5t minus 3 equals n, or if you're using x and y, you probably got 5x minus 3 equals y or something like that, okay? Then it says find the 10th term. So now what I'm going to do is plug in a 10 into this equation for the term number, okay? And then so this would be 50 minus 3 equals n. So this would be 47 equals n, okay? So the equation, 5t minus 3 equals n. And then for the 10th term, it's 47, n equals 47, okay? All right, next problem. Next section talks about representing linear functions. It says a solution of a linear equation is an ordered pair, meaning you have an x and a y value that makes the equation true. And a linear equation can be represented by a set of ordered pairs, a table of values, or a graph, okay? So here it says find 4 solutions of each equation, and then write the solution as ordered pairs, okay? I believe in the book it told you, it gave you 4 values that you should be using. It should be -1, 0, 1, and 2. And then here, y equals -4x. So now I'm going to substitute -1 in for x. And I know -4 times -1 is going to be +4. And then over here, I'm going to plug in 0 for x, which is 0. -4 times 0 is 0. Here, I'm going to plug in +1. And then -4 times 1 is -4. And then here, I'm going to plug in +2. -4 times -2, I'm sorry, -4 times 2 is -8. Now, it says to write your answer as ordered pairs, okay? So that means here's my x value, here's my y value. So -1, 4, and then 0, 0, and then 1 and -4, and then 2 and -8. That is my solution here because it asks for it as ordered pairs. Okay. All right. So then the next section talks about the rate of change in slope. Okay. A change in one quantity in relation to another quantity is called the rate of change. And a quantity that increases over time and has a positive rate of change has a positive rate of change. If it decreases, it has a negative rate of change. And if it doesn't change, then it has a 0 rate of change. Okay. 2 quantities, A and B, have a proportional linear relationship. So if A over B is constant, then and the change in A over the change in B is constant. Okay. Slope can be used to describe rate of change. Okay. And then slope is the ratio of the rise or the vertical change to the run or the horizontal change. So we're going to look at several different problems like this. Okay. So problem 8 talks about landscaping. It says find the rate of change for the linear function shown below. Then determine whether a proportional linear relationship exists between the 2 quantities, and then explain your reasoning. Okay, so you're going to pick 2 points on the graph. So I'm going to pick these 2. Okay, so I want the change in the number of stones. Okay, so change in number of stones over the change in the length of the path, right? So change in the length. Okay, so from this point to this point, from 4, these are increments of 2, not 1. Okay, so from 4 to 10. Okay, so that's 10 minus 4. And then the change in the length would be from 2 to 5. So that's 5 minus 2. So that would be 6 over 3, which is equal to 2. Okay, so that means there's 2 stones for every meter. Okay, so the second part says explain your reasoning. Okay, so yes, the ratio of the number of stepping stones to the length of the path is the same for every pair of values. Okay. So there is a proportional linear relationship that exists here, because for every meter, it goes up 2 stones, right? So at 1 meter, there's 2 stones. At 2 meters, there's 4 stones. 3 meters, there's 6 stones, etc. Okay, so that would be a proportional linear relationship. And you can also see from the graph, it is a line, so it's a linear relationship. Okay. Then its next section talks about writing and using equations. So in the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Very, very important to understand that and memorize this. So you will see this all throughout algebra next year. You can write a linear equation by using the slope and y-intercept, 2 points on a line, a graph, a table, or a verbal description. Okay. So here it says state the slope and y-intercept of the graph of each equation, then graph each equation using the slope and y-intercept. Okay, so remember it's that equation is y equals mx plus b. So b is the y-intercept and m is the slope. Okay, so we can see here that the slope is equal to 3. Okay, and then remember, slope is a rise over a run. So another way is 3 over 1. Keep that in mind. And then the y-intercept is equal to -1. It's not just 1. There's a minus in front, so that would be -1. Okay, so once you have, you need at least 2 points in order to draw a line. So the y-intercept is -1. So on the y-axis, this line is going to cross at -1, which is down here. Okay, that's -1. Then the slope is +3. So that means from each point, from one point to the next, you rise 3 and you run 1. So that means you go 1, 2, 3, and you run 1. So that'll put you right there. So now you have your 2 points. You could even go up 3 over 1 again. You can even go down 3 and to the left 1. Okay, whatever you can put as many of these points as you like, but you only need 2 in order to draw that graph. Okay. All right, next problem. Same thing, it says to state the slope and the y-intercept. Now this one, if you look at this one, remember it needs to be in y equals mx plus b form. Well, this isn't in y equals mx plus b, but what we can do is isolate y, and then it'll be in slope-intercept form, okay? So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna subtract 4x from both sides. So I get 3y equals -4x plus 6, okay? And then I would divide both sides by 3. So y equals -4 thirds x plus 6 divided by 3 is 2, okay? So now it's in slope-intercept form, right? So now we have our slope. Here's our slope, -4 thirds. And then our y-intercept is going to be +2. So again, it's going to cross the y-axis at +2. and then the slope is negative 4/3. So that means you rise, since it's negative, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to the right, the run 1, 2, 3, like that. You could do it again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to the right, 3. Or you could even go up 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to the left, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then you're able to graph your line. Okay. To get really good at graphing lines. Okay, you will do that a lot in algebra. Okay. All right, so number 11 says the total profit for school fundraiser varies directly with the number of potted plants sold. Suppose the school earns $57.60 if 12 plants are sold. Okay, so part A says write an equation that could be used to find the profit per plant sold. Okay, well, we know that they got $57.60 for selling 12 plants. Okay, so 12 times something equals $57.60. So what we're going to do is solve for x. So we're going to divide both sides by 12, and it ends up being 4.8 equals x. So each plant, they make $4.80 profit, right? So to figure out the profit, so the profit equals, because it says write an equation that can be used to find the profit per plant sold. So the profit is equal to 4.8 times x, okay? That is our equation, okay? And then for part B, find the total profit if 65 plants are sold. So again, we have our equation, 4.8 times x being the number of plants sold. So we have profit is equal to 4.8, asking about 65 plants. So when you multiply that out, it ends up being 312, and we're talking about money. So it's $312. Okay? All right. So next problem says to find the slope of the line that passes through each pair of points. Okay? So here you need to know your slope formula. Okay? So that slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's equal to m, or the slope. Okay? Now, you might be thinking, what's y2, what's y1? Okay, so that means the y value of the second point, the y value of the first point, and then the x value of the second point, the x value of the first point. So here, this is the first point that we're given. So I'm going to label this x1, y1. This is the second point I'm given. So this is the x value of the second point. This is the y value of the second point. Okay? Then I just have to plug everything in. Okay? So my y2 is going to be -1 minus y1, which is 6. And then my x2, which is 9, minus my x1, which is 11. Okay? So here, remember, you add the opposite. Okay, so that becomes -1 plus -6, and that equals -7. Okay, and then down here, you add the opposite. 9 plus -11 would be -2, and a negative divided by negative is positive, so it ends up being 7/2. Okay, I just want to show you real quick, if you said this was x2 and y2, and this was x1 and y1, and you plug this in, okay, you should be getting the same answer, okay? So let's say we had 6y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, okay? Here we would add the opposite. So this becomes 6 plus 1, which is 7, and 11 minus 9, which is 2. So notice, doesn't matter which one we use, we still get which ordered pair we use as the first point or the second point, you're still going to get the same answer. Okay, as long as everything is labeled correctly, you're not mixing things up. So I recommend that you label this on your when you come across this problem on the test, just to keep things straight. Okay. All right. Okay. Now this one says to write. This is an additional practice problem, so you will have one like this on the test. Okay. It says to write an equation in point-slope form for the line passing through each pair of points. So recall, point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m, and then x minus x1. Okay? So in order to use this formula, or this equation here, we need a point, which we have 2 of them, so we can pick either one, but we also need the slope, which we're not given here. Okay, but we are given 2 points. We just figured out how to find the slope when you're given 2 points. So that's the first thing we need to do. I'll do that over here. Okay, so let's say this is x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so remember the slope formula. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so y2 is -1 minus y1, which is 3. And then x2 is 7 minus x1, which is 3. So -1 minus 3, you add the opposite. So this is -1 plus -3, which is -4. And then over here, we have 7 minus 3, which is 4. And -4 divided by 4 is -1. So our slope is equal to -1. Okay? Now we have the slope and we have a point. You can pick either one. I'm just going to pick that one because it's first. So I'm going to plug in my information. So I have y minus y1, which is 3, m, which is -1, times x minus x1, which is 3. And then it just wants it in point-slope form. Okay? So that's as far as we go. Okay? So this would be your final answer. We could then simplify this and write it in slope-intercept form, but it's not asking for that. Okay? All right, next problem, the next set, talks about systems of equations. And the solution of a system of equations is the ordered pair that satisfies all equations in the system. Okay, so, and this will come up a lot in algebra for sure. So solve each system of equations by substitution. Okay, so what you're given here is y is equal to 2x minus 5 and y is equal to -1. So we're going to substitute this -1 in for y into that equation up there. Okay, so that becomes, instead of y, I'm going to put -1 is equal to 2x minus 5. Okay, now I can solve this equation. Okay, this is a 2-step equation, so I would add 5 to both sides. So -1 plus 5, that would be +4, equals 2x. I would divide both sides by 2. So 2 is equal to x. Okay, so now I know what x is, and I also know what y is. I was given y is equal to -1. So the solution will be written as an ordered pair. So the x value is +2, and the y value is -1. So that is your final answer. Okay. Now here's another set. It says to solve each system by substitution. So again, so I can now plug in this and substitute that in for y, because it says y equals x plus 4. Well, here I have y, so I can put x plus 4 equals -x plus 2. If I plug in -x plus 2 in for y, same thing. my equation is going to be set equal to the other. Okay, so then I would add 1x to both sides. So I have 2 x's, and then plus 4 equals positive 2. Then I would subtract 4 from both sides. I get 2x equals negative 2. And then I would divide both sides by 2. So x is equal to negative 1. Okay, so now I know what x is. Now I need to figure out what y is. So I can take either one of these equations and substitute negative 1 in for x, and then get my solution. I'm just going to take the top one, y equals x plus 4. So I'm going to substitute x, negative 1 in for x. So I get y equals negative 1 plus 4, which would be positive 3. And remember, your answer should be written as an ordered pair. So the x value is negative 1, and the y value is positive 3. And that's your final answer. Okay. All right, well, that is going to end the practice test for the Chapter 8 test that's coming up. So thank you so much for watching. If you went through this and had some questions or were lost about any of these problems, please stop by my office hours or email or call, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Okay? So hopefully this video was helpful, and like I said, please email or stop by my office hours or call if you have any questions. I'm here to help. All right? Thanks so much for watching.